What do a Black Christian woman
and a Jewish white guy have in common?
We're both seasoned marriage counselors, both married
to other people,
and we're loaded with straightforward practical tools
to change your marriage for the better today.
Welcome to the Better Marriage Podcast.
Hello, and welcome back to the Better Marriage Podcast. Have you ever tried to get heard by your spouse and it's just not working? Today, we're going to give you the keys you need to finally be heard by your partner. Ivy, take it away.
All right, first things first. Please do not send your spouse a text when you're trying to communicate something critical or something very important. Why? Texts sometimes get lost in translation. A failed emoji here.
It is so easy to misinterpret. You read a certain tone into what they're writing and you get angry, so you try to send something and they interpret it even worse. It escalates even quicker. Yeah. Text is not a great medium for dealing with important things. It's really helpful if you want to remind them to pick up the dry cleaning or to ask them if the cheese is spoiled in the fridge. But for the important things, it's really, I know it's tempting because it's easier. It seems lower key, lower stress. Save your important conversations for when you are able to sit face to face and have a conversation about it.
Yes, absolutely. And because remember, the goal is to be able to be comfortable having these deeper conversations with your spouse. And so the more we do this face-to-face thing, the better we get at it too.
Yeah, I would say even the higher goal is developing the relationship and connecting, communicating, right? Just venting your feelings and telling them off and being mad at them doesn't really get you somewhere. It is likely that you will disagree about what happened, that there will be some conflict and some tension to resolve. And we are certainly going to talk all about how to deal with those things. But the goal is to build connection between you. And that rarely happens by text. What happens more often is it turns into a fight, or at best, we put this down and we don't gain from it. We don't grow from it. So really, text is not a good medium for having the important conversations in your relationship.
Not at all. Now, before you jump into this conversation, we recorded a previous episode about how to set the tone for an important conversation. So make sure you listen to that episode because that goes hand in hand with this one. Okay.
Yeah. And that kind of just included things like making sure the phone's away, making sure the time's right and the place is right. So definitely you want to set yourself up for success.
Yes, absolutely. When you're having an important conversation with your spouse, focus on you. When you are the one who's having that conversation, talking, right? Focus on you. I statements. Some of you have heard of I statements and some people roll their eyes and they're like, oh my gosh, I statements. But let me tell you something. I statements are very, very effective because there's no blaming. There's no finger pointing. You're just focusing on your perspective of the situation.
It is a major saving grace. What I tell people is this. When you talk about your spouse, you are inviting them to argue with you. If I say, you yelled too loud, or you never think of me, or whatever it is, all I'm doing is I'm inviting you to say, well, that's not true because of this and this and this. If you would like an argument, that's a great way to do it. But if you talk about yourself, you are inviting your spouse to care. And that's what you're looking for.
Yes, absolutely. I feel, I heard, I saw, it's your perspective. And it's really difficult to argue with somebody's perspective of things because it's my perspective. How are you going to argue about how I'm feeling or what I saw or what I think?
Right. An important advisory there is I feel is a little bit tricky because the way we use English now is like, I feel like you're a big fat jerk. That is not an I statement, right? If you can replace the word feel with the word think, you are actually evaluating the situation. That's an evaluation. It doesn't talk about your feelings. If you can replace the word feel with the word am, we're in much better territory. So I feel sad means I am sad. But I feel like you just care about yourself and, you defend your mother and all these, like, that's me evaluating the situation. And again, I'm just inviting you to argue because you're going to say, well, no, I don't. What I really think is this, that, the other. And now we're back to an argument. So I statement keeps the focus on you. Right? You are the main character in that story. Your spouse is an auxiliary character, meaning, you have to refer to them. You can't say something like, when I am yelled at, I don't like it. Like, who's doing the yelling? Like, that doesn't really make, you can say, you know what, when you yell at me, I really feel scared. Right. That's fine. I'm mentioning you because you're in the story, but I'm the main character. And that way, I'm inviting you to understand my story and what it looks like to me. And it doesn't have to look like that to you, but that's how it looks to me.
Right, absolutely. Now, if you struggle to come up with feelings words, because sometimes we just don't even know how we're feeling, go to the feelings wheel. Just do a quick search, feelings wheel, and it'll show you, it names so many different emotions, and that can really help you pinpoint one. And yes, if you're sitting in front of your spouse, not able to bring up feelings, it's okay to, can I just look up something real quick because I'm trying to pull up my feelings? Pick one. I feel scared. I feel sad. I feel disrespected. I feel whatever it is. Pick a feeling.
Yeah. And again, as long as you're talking about you, we're in good shape. It gets a little bit iffy sometimes when I feel attacked. That's sometimes like it's a gray area. Like maybe that's how I'm feeling. I don't mean to say that you're attacking me. That's an important distinction. I really don't want to be describing you. If I think you're attacking me, I will say I feel attacked. And that keeps you off the hook. If I require you to agree that you're attacking me or that you're disrespecting me or whatever it is, again, we're back to the argument. No, I'm not. That's not what I meant. I am sure you have been faced with this, and I'm sure you've said it before. That's not what I meant. What I meant was. And as you well know, that does not help. Everybody listening to this has been in a situation where they tried to explain what they meant, and it didn't help. You don't want to be hearing that. You don't want to be saying that. You just want to say, here's my perspective. The way I feel is, I feel disrespected. I feel attacked when you say, yabba, 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 yabba. Right? So the other person doesn't have to argue with you. And we'll talk in a future episode about how, as the listener, to handle those moments.
Yes.
But if I keep the focus on me and my experience, all I'm doing is inviting you to get into my experience. I want you to see the world the way I see the world. You don't have to agree with it. I just want you to know how I see it and how I feel about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I like that. Two people do not necessarily have to agree about the experience, but the person who is listening has to be able to put themselves, or should try to put themselves in the shoe of the speaker.
Yeah. Ivy, have you ever seen the movie Being John Malkovich? This is an old movie. It's got to be like 20 years old now at the time of this recording. And there's this great scene where, with a couple scenes, where the John Cusack character goes into John Malkovich's brain and body, and he sees the world literally through John Malkovich's eyes. And that's what I think of. Like, you want to be sitting inside my brain and seeing the world the way I see it. So you're like, huh, that's interesting. So when I said pass the orange juice, you found that disrespectful. Okay, I'm not quite sure, but let me, you try to see the world the way they see it.
Yes.
And again, as a listener, there are things that we'll talk about how to get better at that and how to see that better. But if I, as a speaker, I'm trying to invite you into that and not trying to make you agree or trying to make you admit or apologize, all I want is for you to see the world the way I see it for a moment. Then we can have a conversation that does not turn into conflict.
Yeah. And as a speaker, watch your tone, watch your body language, watch the words that you're using, because chances are, if you are yelling, if you are screaming, if you are pointing fingers, if you are insulting, your spouse is going to be upset or fight back verbally,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Your job as a speaker is you really want to avoid doing anything that would cause your spouse to be defensive. You do not want to create defensiveness in your spouse because that is the kiss of death for communication. Once somebody becomes defensive, no one's listening to anybody else. Now, we both, when we're in the listener role, have the obligation to try to not become defensive. But you, as the speaker, have the obligation not to do things that will elicit defensiveness. So accusing elicits defensiveness. Attacking, insulting, put downs, right? What does not elicit defensiveness, to the extent that that's possible, is for me to talk about me, like we've been saying. So anything that you can do to avoid bringing up defensiveness in your partner is really important. You might say, but they really did something wrong. That's fine. You could talk about how that impacts you rather than trying to get them to admit wrong. Nobody likes to admit wrong. Sometimes we have to do that, and that can be done. But if I'm inviting you into my world and saying, this is what it's like for me, could you please care about me? Could you understand how I'm hurt? There's much less need to be defensive.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. Don't assume what your spouse is thinking. Okay.
Yeah.
So I felt sad when you did not invite me to dinner with your friends because you were definitely trying to alienate me and you clearly don't like me.
Oh, we were so close, Abby. You started it off right. You started off with, I felt this when you did that. and then you went to the assumption.
Right. Right. So it's, I felt sad because I wasn't invited or because you didn't invite me to the party or whatever. Tell me more. What happened?
Yeah, there
Why?
you go.
Let them explain.
Yeah. Ivy, are you a mind reader?
Absolutely not. I wish I was. I wish I
Right.
was. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a mind reader either, right? So no matter how much you think you know why your spouse did what they did, you cannot be sure. Sometimes you're right,
Mhm.
often you're wrong.
Right.
I can tell you, I have definitely made those assumptions in my head. More often than not at this point, I'm able to sort of clear them out before I talk to my wife. But I find more often than not, my assumption about what she was thinking or why she did what she did is not correct.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Lead with kindness, right? Give the benefit of the doubt. Just lead with kindness and assume that your spouse wants the same thing as you, which is a healthy marriage and a thriving situation, right?
Yeah. Or even just admitting to yourself that you're not sure, right? So your spouse did something that looks really bad to you and looks insulting and hurtful. So you can at least say to yourself, you know what? I'm really not sure what they were thinking. I have had so many situations where I said to myself, there's no way, I don't know what she's doing. This is not the right thing. This is bothering. This is causing trouble. But I was able to keep an open mind. And then when I actually heard what my spouse was thinking, I was like, oh, you know what? That makes sense. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. Like, there was some information I didn't know, or there was something else I wasn't considering. It is so common. So when you are talking about what's going on for you, you keep it to what you saw, how you feel, but do not go into your spouse's head because you just don't live there. That was a movie. You cannot actually be in your spouse's head. So do not make those assumptions.
Yeah.
And one more point is that when you are talking about something that is on your mind, whether it's good, whether it's bad, a conflict, or just a situation that has nothing to do with your spouse, stick to one topic at a time. Don't throw everything with the kitchen sink, right? Don't do the kitchen sinking thing where you say, well, you're a slob and you're totally disrespectful, or even with the I feel statements. I feel angry because you don't clean up the room. And I feel disrespected when you leave the laundry for me to do. And I'm exhausted because the kids are always yelling. You can go on and on and on. And your spouse is like blown away, just like doesn't know what to do with that. And like you can't address that problem, right? One thing at a time. I will tell you how exhausted I am because the kids have been terrible today, and I'm really frustrated that you weren't around to help me, and so on and so forth. That's one topic. And then I will let you hear me out and do some reflecting, which we'll talk about. And then we just stick to that topic until that is thoroughly done. If I throw everything at you at once, nobody's going to get nowhere.
Right. Absolutely. Because the goal is to have shared understanding. We don't have to necessarily agree on everything, but shared understanding. And it's difficult to have shared understanding when you have just, it feels like an attack, right? You've just said 5 things that I do horribly. Of course, I'm going to go into defense mode, or I'm going to shut down, or I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, this is too much. I'm going to run away, right? But just focus on one thing. Let's clear up that matter. And then let's come back together and just be happy. We can talk about all the other things later when we're not as overwhelmed.
Yeah, Ivy, if you hit me with 5 things, like what exactly are you hoping I would do anyways that would help the situation?
Right.
Right? Like, what am I going to do? I'm going to go down all 5 and say, I was wrong about this, and I was wrong about this, and I was wrong about that. Like, even if I did that, that probably wouldn't make you feel better. You're kind of on emotional overload, and you're just throwing it all out there, and there's not much we can do with that. So if you sort of constrict a little bit and just keep it on one thing at a time, then I can helpfully respond. I can understand. I can care about where you're at. I can offer some validation and empathy, but I can't do that if you dump everything on your mind onto mine.
Yeah. So some patience is required, it sounds like, learning
Yeah,
how to deal with one thing at a time. And then over time, you trust each other, the communication grows, and you get better at handling some of the other issues at the right time, too.
sure. Okay, so a basic recap here. Number one, you are doing this in person, not over text. Number two, I statement, which is, when this happens, I feel that. Not I feel that you are a big fat jerk, but I feel the following. I feel sad. You put in a feeling word there. You're going to focus on yourself and your experiences. Don't focus on your partner. Don't make assumptions about what they're thinking. Any other points you want to recap there, Ivy?
Focus on one thing at a
One
time.
thing at a time.
One thing at a time. Don't bombard them, please.
Super. Okay. So that is our little episode on how to be an effective speaker so that you can get heard. In a future episode, we'll definitely talk about what the role of the listener is and
Yes.
offer more useful tips on how to make your marriage the best possible. So we will see you next time.
Alrighty. Bye.